Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Yes, it's the Skeptic Zone podcast, episode number 477 for the 10th of December 2017. Richard Saunders here with you from overcast Sydney, Australia. We're expecting some rain again, I think. Coming up on... You don't want to hear about the weather. You can look on the internet and go and Google Sydney weather. I don't know why I give you... Coming up on this week's episode of the Skeptic Zone, we're going to kick off with the Raw Skeptic, Heidi Robertson from the Northern Rivers Vaccination Supporters Group. And she's going to be telling us about a campaign by the anti-vaxxers to disseminate flyers into people's letterboxes with the alarming headline, "Vaccines Killed My Baby." We're going to find out who's behind this, and Heidi will read a story written by Jane Hansen covering this issue. Anti-vaxxers in your letterbox, coming up at the top of the show. Following that, Maynard spooky action, more interviews from Skepticon, only a couple of weeks ago now here in Sydney. Maynard chats to our very own reporter Mandy-Lee Noble, Tim Mendham from the Australian Skeptics, and a special interview with Captain Disillusion, also known as Alan Melikdjanian. Now, Captain Disillusion was a special guest at the convention, gave a wonderful talk. I think that's available on YouTube. I'll hunt that out, and I'll link to that in the show notes if that's the case. And after the convention, a few of the committee members had a very nice dinner out with Alan at a vegan restaurant here in Sydney. That was a lot of fun. Then to round off the show, a grain of salt with Eran Segev. Eran is going to be chatting to Jakub Kroulik, who he met at the European Skeptics Congress. And we've been covering this story over the last months, I guess, where there was a sort of a panel, a talk on exorcism at the European Skeptics Congress. And Eran's going to find out about hypnosis and exorcism in this week's Grain of Salt. Stay tuned at the end of the show for the Loose Ends segment, where we bring you more news and snippets of information. But for now, it's time for me to run downstairs and have a nice slice of ghost pepper cheese on a cracker. I've just discovered this ghost pepper cheese. For those in Australia, you can get it at Aldi supermarkets. Yum, yum. While I do that, I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone.
It's the Raw Skeptic Report with Heidi Robertson.
Hello everyone, Heidi Robertson here from the Northern Rivers Vaccination Supporters, and I apologise in advance if you hear some rain and thunder outside. A storm is just about to hit. Recently, Stephanie Messenger, who you may remember as being the author of the children's book Melanie's Marvellous Measles, had a number of leaflets printed up and called on her followers to help distribute them via a letterbox drop all over Australia. And I quote from her post. "Hi all, have you noticed we are mostly preaching to the converted regarding the vaccination issue? In Australia, we have very few options to educate new people, and in fact, many people still are unaware there even is an issue. They've grown up believing vaccines are of value and have saved us all, so why would mainstream people look at the issue? So to remedy this in part, I have organised a letterbox drop of a flyer to educate people about vaccine dangers. If we can get 500,000 flyers out there, we could hopefully get up to 100,000 read. The flyer is being professionally done by a graphic designer and will be professionally printed and folded into thirds ready to go. The flyer will focus on 6 sub-issues of the big issue: autism, vaccine pregnancy, HPV, baby vax ingredients and side effects, flu vax, corruption in science and media, reliable websites to go to, etc., etc. I've put a call on Facebook for people willing to put 1,000 flyers into letterboxes in their area, and so far I've got about 160 people ready to go." End quote. She then asks people for their support by way of distribution of the leaflets, or for them to pay for some of the costs, or for them to print some flyers out themselves, or to purchase her kids' books because, quote, "it's important we educate our kids before the government does it for you," end quote. At NRVS, we've so far heard of a few people who found one of these flyers in their letterboxes in suburbs in Brisbane, the Sunshine Coast, Canberra, in the Northern Territory recently, and we've also had some of our own members that report they have received them around here in the Northern Rivers. Jane Hansen wrote about this story in the Daily Telegraph on December the 7th, 2017, and today I'll be reading out that excellent article. The story, quote, "Anti-vax campaign reaches a dreadful new low. Vaccines killed my baby." That's the alarming headline on a pamphlet currently being dropped in letterboxes around the country. It's emotive, terrifying, and wrong. The person behind the pamphlet is anti-vaccine campaigner Stephanie Messenger, who also penned a book written to educate children on the benefits of having measles, which claims carrot and melon juice are effective treatments. It is a terrifying story she shares on the pamphlet, that she did the right thing and vaccinated her baby, and then he started to slowly die. It is a powerful story capable of instilling fear for any prospective mother. Deaths from vaccines are being hidden from the public, the pamphlet states. But sadly, the story Ms. Messenger shares, and no doubt truly believes, is not the full story. There is an adverse events following immunisation register monitored by health officials. All are investigated. If vaccines are involved in serious side effects, systems are in place to investigate, as was the case with flu vax in 2010, which caused a spate of febrile convulsions in children. It was banned and remains so for all children under 5. If a death is recorded within days of vaccination, again, there is an investigation. In the rare event of a death, there is always another cause. Vaccines are under incredible scrutiny for safety. There is no cover-up, as Ms. Messenger alleges. The pamphlet links to Ms. Messenger's blog, where she tells the heartbreaking story of her son, Jason Drew, whose health started to deteriorate at around 6 months of age. He was subjected to months of medical examination at the Children's Hospital in Camperdown in 1977 before he was diagnosed with an inherited genetic disorder called Alexander's disease, which, quote, "in its neonatal form leads to severe disability or death within 2 years," end quote. Jason's illness started to present around 6 months of age, which coincided with his routine triple antigen vaccination, but the timing and the symptoms she describes her baby suffering are in line with the symptoms of Alexander's disease. Alexander's disease is a progressive neurodegenerative disease that causes seizures, hydrocephalus, fluid on the brain, and severe motor and intellectual disability. The symptoms get progressively worse until death. It is not something you would wish on anyone. Quote, "He started arching his back and crying out in pain. He was as stiff as a board. His eyes would roll into the back of his head. He didn't have a temperature. He had also started shuddering, but he wasn't cold. I later learnt from the doctor these were convulsions and seizures," end quote, Miss Messenger writes. Quote, "Vaccination killed him, I have no doubt," end quote. Ms. Messenger states that doctors told her, that her son's condition was Alexander's disease. Quote, "They said it was genetic. They went on to explain why I should never have any more children, as they could all be inflicted with this condition." End quote. Ms. Messenger's husband at the time, and Jason's father, Gary Drew, told me he was devastated by his son's diagnosis. Quote, "They said it was Alexander's disease. They told us not to have any more kids, as it would happen again, and it broke my heart in half," Mr. Drew said, "and I know it ruined my marriage." Asked if he agreed with his ex-wife that vaccines were at fault, Mr. Drew said, quote, "All I know is he died. I'm a motor mechanic, not a doctor." End quote. I'm a bereaved parent myself, so I am the last to take aim at another mother who has lived such a hell. But claiming vaccines killed your child, and using that as ammunition in a war on vaccines when there likely is a medical explanation, is just plain wrong. It is Ms. Messenger's prerogative to reject the scientific explanation in favour of her own feelings, but she does not have the right to frighten other vulnerable new parents off the proven benefits of vaccination. When I called Ms. Messenger about the pamphlet, she said, quote, "I don't want to speak to you. I know who you are," and then hung up. Ms. Messenger has also linked vaccination with sudden infant death syndrome. This is the credibility problem the anti-vax brigade has. They use fear as a weapon and claim vaccines are the root cause of just about every ailment: cancer, allergies, ADHD, SIDS, you name it. But they do so without any scientific backing and contrary to existing evidence. It's just a scary story. Scientists know now that autism has a genetic component, and no one knows just what else comes into play. But they do know vaccination is not one of them because they have looked time and time again. The link has been disproved 100 times over, even by a 500,000 strong Norwegian study that showed autism rates in unvaccinated children are the same as the vaccinated community. But this fact is rejected by anti-vaxxers in favour of a fraudulent paper by a struck-off doctor who looked at just 11 kids. Andrew Wakefield was struck off for medical fraud and failed to disclose that he accepted over $500,000 from lawyers representing the 11 autistic children in a suit against the MMR vaccine. He is now the producer on another fact-devoid story called Vaxxed, currently travelling around Australia, regurgitating the same nonsense about cover-ups and catastrophes. The fact that white children in the USA have a higher rate of autism is the essential fact that blows the vax conspiracy that African American children are more prone to autism post-vaccination out of the water. Cancer is on the rise too, they say, again blaming vaccines. Improved diagnostic tests and screening is part of the story, but the real causes of many cancers are now well known: smoking, obesity, excessive alcohol, too much red meat, and chemical and pesticide exposure. The science is pointing to viruses actually triggering some cancers, like the human papillomavirus. The fact the vaccine is the reason cervical cancer will diminish is also ignored. Again, facts. All these facts have a habit of ruining a really scary story." End quote. So, keep an eye out for one of these flyers in your letterbox if you're in Australia, and please let us know if you receive one. Until next time, this is Heidi Robertson from the Northern Rivers Vaccination Supporters. You can find us at nrvs.info and also on Facebook and Twitter. Until next time, bye.
Dr. Harriet Hall, MD, known to thousands as the Skepdoc, a retired family physician and former Air Force flight surgeon. She writes about medicine, so-called complementary and alternative medicine, science, quackery, and critical thinking. Harriet now has a free course, a series of 10 video lectures on science-based medicine and alternative medicine. The videos and an accompanying course guide can be found by following the link at skepdoc.info or by visiting web.randy.org/educational-modules.html. Topics covered in the series are science-based medicine versus evidence-based medicine, what is CAM, chiropractic, acupuncture, homeopathy, naturopathy and herbal medicine, energy medicine, miscellaneous alternatives, pitfalls in research, and science-based medicine in the media and politics. Harriet covers each topic in a matter-of-fact, no-nonsense way that's sure to educate and entertain. Skepdoc.info.
Here's Maynard's spooky action at a distance.
Here we are, the first day of the conference. It's Saturday morning. Everyone's just been up for the initial session. I've been up to see the recording of the podcast Hard Noise with CJ and Sam. Bit of combination of rationalism and metal. I loved it. It was full on. A lot of hubbubbing around. Hubbub, 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 hubbub. Dr. Carl's about to do a signing. Tim Mendham is behind the desk for the skeptics. We've got Jessica Singer there giving him backup. Anything could happen. It's a wild skeptic thing. I do see a few hangovers from the drinks last night, but, you know, a few names I could mention, but, you know. And of course, as I look around here, we look at we do the usual count we do at a skeptical conference. I've seen 2 neckbeards, 3 Harry high pants, and 1 guy with a Tubular Bells T-shirt. Richard, what have you seen so far this morning?
You goose.
I know, I'm the only person wearing an Astro Boy jacket.
Well, what a turnout. Look at all the people. They're lined up right outside the door for book signing. Dr. Carl will be here.
How many people do you reckon will be in that line?
30?
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, he's going to do it.
Nice. And they're lined up over there to get a coffee. The line for the coffee is longer than the line for Dr. Carl, I think.
Well, that's okay, because his book's a bit more expensive than a coffee.
Let's walk over here, because I just see some. There's Dr. Carl himself walking right by us.
Look at that, in a strangely subdued T-shirt. It's only bright red checks, but that's pretty good for Dr. Carl.
It's Ruth. Hello, Ruth.
How are you?
Good to see you.
And our latest skeptic.
Who's your latest skeptic here?
This is Segev.
How old's he?
He is 5.5 months.
Okay, so it's time to introduce him to Dr. Carl.
That's right.
Wow.
This might actually be the first time Carl meets Segev.
Right. Actually, what discipline do you think of science go into?
Probably after his namesake, Carl Sagan. So I'm hoping
He's wearing a science...
You're going to be a great philosopher who's not actually saying anything at the moment. That's going to be unusual for the rest of your life, so enjoy the peace and quiet while you get it.
The youngest skeptic here, I think. The youngest skeptic.
Yep. And Dr. Carl, having worked as a bit of a paediatrician, he'll know all about it.
And Dr. Carl's making sure people know who he is. He's got a flashing Dr. Carl badge.
Look at that. Yeah.
And cards.
It says Dr. Carl and Eat at Joe's at the end of it.
It does. He has to get sponsorship from somewhere. Cool. But here's the lineup for Dr. Carl, including lots of skeptical people there.
Hey, Richard, we're outside the recital hall here at Angel Place, which, by the way, was where I used to DJ a lot. But let me tell you, this is like 5-star. When I DJ'd here, it was 1-star. None of this was here. It was just like a toilet trough with 2 turntables at the end.
I see.
It was a bit more like that. But I'm looking around outside, and I can only see 2 skeptical smokers.
That's a sign of the times, isn't it, Maynard?
I know. I'm in Melbourne, there's a lot more smoking skeptics in Melbourne. This is interesting. Maybe the word's getting out.
Maybe they're fuming more in Sydney than smoking, I think.
That's true, yeah. Ah, look, and here's a voice that should be familiar to Skeptic Zone listeners. Who have we got here?
Mandy-Lee Noble, the diet skeptic.
Yay! And what area of weight loss are you the most skeptical of?
Well, Maynard, I'm going big today. I'm going to be talking about how I believe that all weight loss is pseudoscience.
Wow! It's all placebo?
No, it's all a bit of magical thinking. and weight doesn't really define health. So.
Oh, I see. Yes, you have got a good point there, because you can have a low weight and you look terrible, whereby if you've got a little bit of muscle bulk in the right area, or you've done a bit of butt work and you weigh a bit more, you look better.
This is true. Well, all shapes and bodies come in all shapes and sizes, and they can all be healthy or unhealthy depending on their health habits. So.
That's true. Well, who would you think would be an example of someone in popular culture we could look at, male or female, and go, well, they seem to have got the balance right?
I think anyone who's like a competent eater and who likes to move and that sort of thing. But I think we shouldn't really be on any moral obligation to be healthy. We should all just be on our own health journeys. Okay, smarty dietitian person. Then what about shows like Man vs. Food? How do you feel about that? I notice there's no shows called Women versus Food. It's always men that want to take on the carbs. I actually haven't seen it, Maynard. I don't have
a great
TV.
Show. Well, basically, a guy goes. Oh, you don't have a. Well, sure. I mean, I believe there's a lot of theft in the area where you live, and you know why bother replacing it? Speaking of culture, we've got Dr. Karl over there. If you could ask Dr. Karl one question, what would you lay on him scientifically?
Oh my goodness, that would be a really tricky one. Probably the doorway one, which I was listening to him today, and I was expecting the doorway one. I was actually discussing it with my son the other day. And
what's the doorway one again?
That doorways cause forgetfulness.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Yes, when you transition and you walk into a different room and you go, why am I here?
Absolutely. So I'd probably like to ask him a bit more about that. I'm definitely going to be looking up the study now to see it. So just about he thinks that it's really a real artefact of science.
Oh, and I look forward to hearing you on the show later on our live recording.
It's been great to meet you, Maynard.
Good to meet you too.
Perfect.
Of course, when it comes to doing skeptical conferences, there's one guy you always see. He's got the magazines out, he's got the magnets out, he's got the T-shirts out in available and comparable sizes. It's Tim Mendham. Hi, Tim. How are you?
Hi, Maynard. I'm very good, thank you.
Huge early start for you. 6 a.m. this morning you were here, putting out the magazines, getting ready for the onslaught. How have the skeptics been this year?
Very good. It's been a very exciting year, actually. I think we've had a lot of fun. I think Australia-wide, but especially us in Sydney. You've had some very good skeptics in the pub. You've been to one of those. You've spoken to one of those recently.
I've been to... Look,
you did all of them.
I did the one with Tim Ferguson a little while ago.
Yes.
Now, what is the hot item on the skeptical desk here this time round?
We're giving away back copies of the magazine, and they're going like free issues.
As you would expect.
We've got a lot of the back issues that look pretty glamorous. We've got a lot of stock, so we're giving people away a treat here at the thing. And, of course, what we always say, that if you have a read of it, then you take it to your local homeopath's office and leave it in the shelf there alongside the old National Geographics and magazines like that.
And there's normally a hot topic or a theme or something to the convention. What is it this year? Is there one?
At this particular convention?
Yeah, is there anything?
I think they're selling it as ideas.
Oh, I see.
Which is a bit broad.
The big hubbub's about ideas.
That's right. Yeah, it's a bit broad, I know. It's a bit.
I'd like to bring up transubstantiation. That's a cracker of an idea.
Transubstantiation is one of my I can't even say it. You see, it's so good. Yeah, no.
There's the Holy Trinity. There's an idea.
There is an idea, yeah, there's three.
Yeah, in one.
Unless you see it as one, yeah. There's a bit of a discussion, actually. I think we've had a discussion.
There is a bit of an atheist bent to this one. There's a bit more of an atheist fixation in this conference than there have been in previous skeptical conventions.
Yeah, I think because we're working with an outside group and helping to working together to organise the speakers, it's extended a bit beyond just the simple, traditional skeptical topics.
Yeah.
So, atheism, social issues, that sort of thing as well.
Look, Dr. Karl's up there talking about Russian comedy and why it's not funny. I mean, when the hell did someone laugh at a Chekhov play the last time? The Seagull?
I did.
Did you? Yeah, but you've been to uni.
That's very true. I know. I'm a bit of a cynic when it comes to Chekhov.
And we've got the guilty housewife up there as well. Oh, no, the guilty mother. She's a guilty mother, and I don't know if this is a chocolate-based thing, whether she wants an open relationship with her husband. I'm not quite sure what it's about.
It's definitely, that's Kate Brown, actually, who's very good. She's actually written an article for the next issue of the Skeptic magazine. Yeah. So there we are. All about guilty mums, and as she very rightly points out, also guilty fathers as well.
Now, it's all about getting stuff marketed to you, isn't it? About items marketed to you as a parent.
All the things that you really don't need, like knee pads for toddlers. when they're crawling. I suppose a hard stone floor might be a help, but honestly, they've been doing it for a while. I think they're used to it. It's good for their knees.
Now, what are you prepared for? Have you been asking difficult questions here? I know you've been to a few conferences where people have hit you up and pinned down the skeptical meme. What's going on here?
This has actually been a very sympathetic crowd, actually.
Oh, really?
I think because I'm offering them free magazines. They don't want to push it too hard by asking questions. I have had a few people who are asking for particular issues and what we've been sort of doing lately, but mainly just about the general skeptical movement.
Depends on how they've asked it, but what have you been doing lately? Or what have you been doing lately?
The only person who's asked me that lately is you.
Yes, true. Yeah, well, I've got to do that to keep you on your toes.
That's true. Okay, I need to be on my toes too, actually. So my feet are killing me, honestly. I've been here all day. So,
Well, I'm going to sit just quietly here and get myself together before we're doing the live Skeptic Zone upstairs, where anything can go wrong. We'll be on the edge. And we only get one go at this, you know.
I know, it's live. I know. Yeah, it's pre-recorded.
Man, I'm excited. This guy usually has... I was just talking to someone about picking their favourite element, by the way. Look, Captain Disillusion, what is your favourite element? Mine is American.
Mine is clearly disillusionium. I mean, what else could it be?
That's right. Mine's got an atomic weight of 95 and they use it in batteries. Where does disillusionium come on? Where would we find it normally?
Well, out in space, clearly, and it has yet to be established because, as my fans know, there's a lot of mystery to the origins of my character, to the whole universe of my show, so they have to keep watching to figure these things out. I've figured them out already. Clearly, everything is completely, conceptualized, but I'll just have to reveal it step by step.
Look, I was first introduced to the wonderful world of Captain Disillusion, I think, around about the time you unveiled the Temple Mount UFO hoax.
Oh, which one is that?
Was that where they claimed a UFO landed on the Temple Mount in Israel, in Tel Aviv? Is that the one?
Did I do that? I don't remember if I did a video on that, but that sounds very interesting. I got to put it in my catalog of stuff to still address.
Because you recently referenced it.
Did I? Oh, well...
During the lightning strike one you did, there was one about the lightning strike in Australia, and you referenced it, and I thought, well, that's cool.
Those awesome pictures, those completely realistic-looking photos from back in the day.
And what blows me away in every Captain Disillusion video, and I suggest you go and have a look at a couple, is that not only can you spot that it's After Effects, you know the difference between After Effects 8 and 9 and 6 and 7. I love that.
Oh, yeah, especially CS4. That stuff looks completely different. No, I mean, the tools change, but the methods really don't. It's all about making things look, questionable and kind of crappy and low quality, and then you can pretty much get away with anything.
Yeah, look, I love the way you unveil people trying to do hoaxes and fool everything, but I assume that everything I see on YouTube is fake. I don't assume any of it's real.
Yeah, these days that's what you have to do. And I find that with my audience, like when I started out, people just kind of believed everything, and they, it was easy. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. Just like, look at all these people, look at all these comments of everyone being credulous. But nowadays, people really just ask me, is this fake? Is this fake? And half the stuff they show me is just like, a juggler juggling a lot of balls. It's like they can't conceive that could be real. So people just don't believe anything anymore. And I guess that's good for me because I get to explain lots of stuff and make fun of people, but, I wish people could finally strike that balance where they're not too credulous, but they also know not to just dismiss everything out of hand.
Oh, the problem I've got into recently with friends of mine that they like UFO photos and things like that. I saw a photo from China, and it was so sharp. The light was coming out of the bottom of the spaceship. It looked like there were some bits of it exposed different. I said, I'm sorry, that looks fake because it's too good. And he goes, you skeptics, it's either too blurry or it's too good. Make your mind up. But a photo that is too good is very suspicious, isn't it?
It is. I mean, yeah, sometimes I almost feel sorry.
Linda Moulton Howe, that one of the spaceship that was supposed to be an actual genuine photo of a alien spaceship probe going over some telegraph poles. They looked at it and they could find some JPEG, artifacts and things like that. That's always going to give away stuff. Can you actually hide, maybe if the CIA can do a photo, who can hide one that you can't tell?
Well, yeah, I'm not sure. I guess it is possible. It's just you have to be a little bit more elaborate. You have to take the extra steps that most people, I guess, don't bother to take. If you just, even like a really well-rendered, completely computer-generated image could, you start out with really high quality, and then you like rephotograph it or something, and then all the artifacts and things would look correct, I guess. But you don't see a lot of that done. People just don't think outside the box, I guess. They just take the easy way out, these hoaxers.
What's the most interesting one you've come up against? The one that you went, ooh, is there one that's even challenged you a little bit in how they did it?
Well, I have to say I fall victim to that whole thing of just like not believing, like the default position being I just don't believe what I'm seeing when I'm exposed to new videos.
That would make you a naysayer. Captain Naysayer.
Yeah, that might be a better name. But no, I try to be objective. And recently there was this strange little viral clip. It was very short, and it was of this guy, just like it's some kind of water park, and a guy slides down this water slide and into a pool. And typically when that happens, you just kind of dunk into a pool and you're done. But this guy kept sliding down the water on the surface all the way to the edge of the pool and just got up, like right using the momentum, just stepped right out of the pool. And that sounds unbelievable and kind of looked unbelievable, but it actually was real. So one site, I wanted it to make it the topic of my video, and I started analyzing it, and I just couldn't find any of those little details, any of those giveaway artifacts or anything. And then I just looked at more evidence from like other people maybe capturing footage from that place, that particular water park, and I found some, and it turns out that's just how that weird pool is arranged, and somehow people are able to slide across it for a bit because of the momentum or something. And so it's pretty interesting.
One thing I've noticed on YouTube a lot, which is where you kind of live a fair bit, is there's a lot more flat earth videos than I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's really strange. I gotta look into that. I'm sure there's a lot to unpack there. But I've seen a few other channels do some science and skepticism channels do videos about.
Yeah, it's not really stuff that can be debunked video-wise, because they present these facts, and it's kind of interesting because when these people get interviewed on regular shows, they aren't really challenged much beyond the host going, but surely you can't believe this. They don't actually challenge them.
Yeah, it's bizarre, and I think we should take time to challenge them. Not even challenge them, but just present them with a little bit more like, what about all this mountain of evidence that doesn't line up with what you're saying? They have a lot of quick explanations, quick little answers to like common things, but there's so much more evidence on the side of reality that it's surprising that anyone can hold that point of view for very long.
And how many subscribers have you got as of this week?
As of this week, I think recently I surpassed 500,000, so hopefully it'll keep going, and we'll see.
Now, with that many subscribers, you must get some real crank mail. You must really get the crank mail.
Yeah, you would think so, but I kind of get like interesting suggestions. Like I said, a lot of suggestions are things that are perfectly normal, perfectly real, but people just don't want to believe it, and they want me to explain why this is fake, because they're like, this is too good, this person's skills are too good, I don't think anybody should be that great at what they do, I guess. I get a lot of that. But I almost never hear from, for instance, people whose videos I analyze. Like, I almost never, you would think they would constantly, send me angry letters. I suppose maybe, but I've communicated with a couple of them, and recently one just like wrote me a really nice letter, because it wasn't about like a hoax or anything. It was just about a fake viral video where an effects artist did some work, and that artist wrote me and said like, oh wow, I really love your videos, and you really nailed everything you explained, even though I was just kind of going by what I see. So that's nice to hear sometimes, like a positive reaction from someone who was the subject of my video. Because I mean, I am mockingly mean, but I think I strike an okay tone of like making it into a joke and kind of laughing with everyone instead of at everyone.
With your day job, your film production work, would we have seen that in a movie or something? Have you done something we might have seen?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked on, nothing huge, but I worked on a lot of like music videos and things, just doing little patchwork. There's a lot of mistakes and things these days that people just use visual effects to correct stuff like, oh, there's a microphone in the shot or this or that. Okay. So that's kind of been my bread and butter for a while. But in the last couple of years, thanks to Patreon, I actually kind of became Captain Disillusion full-time.
Oh,
so I've been fantastic. Doing this. Yeah.
Look. What is the best video clip ever made? For me, there's really only two. David Lee Roth, of course, Just a Gigolo, perhaps the best video clip ever made. And, of course, Right Said Fred, I'm Too Sexy, mainly because of the song. Now, those just two outstanding clips. Not a lot of trickery in those clips.
No, and I have a great recommendation for a music video, but unfortunately I do not know the official name. It's just some funny, repeated, silly word. It's a Japanese pop song by an artist, and I'll have to look it up and I'll have to show it to you. But it's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. Just like this barrage of colors and bizarre imagery and this pop star.
Is it one of those ones that makes you epileptic, perhaps?
Yeah, a little bit, and it's just like, what am I looking at? It's cutting to a person in a bear suit, hugging a squirrel. Then this girl is dancing. Then somebody turns around and farts, and there's a cartoon fart drawn out of their butt. It's crazy, but I love it. I got to look that video up and send you a link.
Well, I will definitely want to see that. I mean, the Japanese know how to do it. Also, some of the Eastern Europeans make some weird clips too that defies analysis.
That's true. Quite a few videos that I've analyzed, for some reason, come from Russia. There's the ghost car video where someone at an intersection, a car comes out of nowhere. There's a couple more, like a flying girl. Someone catches some strange child in the woods just floating. I think that one's from Russia. Yeah, they've got an imagination.
Are people trying to do these to deliberately trick people? Or are they trying to do it to earn money on YouTube or to promote a philosophy? What do you think is the main motivator?
It's all of those. There's not a main one. I come across videos that are clearly just ads, and they're designed to promote a product in this viral way. Sometimes it's fairly innocent, and it's just someone, some student trying out their effects skills, and they don't necessarily want to fool everybody, but their attitude is, well, if this goes viral and fools people, cool. But if not, I don't care. If everyone says it's fake, I know it's fake, whatever. And then there are a few where it's they're genuinely trying to fool people. Especially, I've done a couple of videos like this where I analyze Kickstarter projects for kind of weird products that don't make any sense, that can't possibly work, but they, gather so much funding. So those are the kinds of things you have to actually challenge and really deconstruct and tell people, look, this doesn't make sense and you shouldn't support it.
And as a skeptic, what's your favorite red flags? Where are the ones where you go, aha, that's one of my favorite, that's happening again. What's the one you say we should also look out for when any concept or idea or video comes your way?
Well, I guess, I haven't done this recently, but kind of going back to my roots when I first started out videos, a lot of them were about ghosts and ghost sightings, and that's kind of my pet peeve. People spreading those kind of ideas about the afterlife, about, spirits and doing things right, doing things wrong.
Captain Disillusion, I live alone, and I can listen to UFO stuff, Bigfoot stuff and everything, but if I listen to ghost stuff, it kind of makes me uneasy in my own house, where the other things don't affect me at all. Can you explain that?
I'm with you. I feel the same. I'm a skeptical dude, and I make fun of all this stuff, but if I'm home alone and it's really dark and it's dreary and I just watched a horror movie, I'm scared out of my mind, to walk into the kitchen if the light doesn't work.
It's weird, isn't it?
We can't fight it. It's our nature, but it makes it more important to really just know, at least intellectually, that there's nothing to it, that ghosts don't exist. You might still be kind of instinctively scared, but somewhere in there you'll feel a little bit better, and you'll be able to deal with your own anxiety, if nothing else.
And if you had the unlimited budget for Captain Disillusion, what is the episode that you would love to do if they went, well, here's a truckload of cash, Captain?
Well, a few people have suggested that I should just put on a full-length Captain Disillusion movie, and I've had a few interesting ideas about that.
I guess the rights would be the expensive bit of that too.
Yeah. Well, I guess I would. I would look for some really interesting videos to explain, but also just expand the whole universe of Captain D and make it more into some kind of sci-fi adventure with some skeptical messages. That might be fun.
Because I know a lot of what you do is an illusion, but when you smash the glass with your wrist, I get scared when you smash that tube.
Yeah, that was fun to do. I try to throw in, I spend a lot of time deconstructing the effects and showing the actual subject video, but there's a ton of effects that go into just me hosting and doing the silly things while I'm on screen. And I kind of enjoy that. I try to, whatever effects I'm talking about in the fake video, I try to do some version of that in my actual room and whatever. And so there's an interesting, if you are someone that looks into actual technology of visual effects and follow that stuff, I think you get a different appreciation. It's kind of almost inside visual effects artist humor in there.
Speaking of humor, having worked in television, there's an old joke they love to use on the set, which maybe you've used as well too, and it's against the audio guy. They say, audio, 50% of the production, 90% of the problem. Now, do you believe that at all?
Yeah, I have to run my own audio, and it's a nightmare because, I can't take care of everything. I got to listen in, I got to make sure my mic works, and then I sometimes have to be judicious and stop myself. The reason everybody hates the audio guy is because he stops the shoot at the slightest provocation. If there's a tiny noise, if there's anything, he'll just get in the way, he'll stop the whole thing. But I have to be that for myself because I'm a one-man band for the most part. So,
and we see one of your great 5 or 7-minute episodes. How long does it take to put that together?
Well, nowadays with Patreon, I'm on a monthly schedule. I promised 3 years ago now to my audience that I'll make at least a video a month. And you know how they say, whatever time you allot for a task, that's how long it'll take. It takes me a full month to make every video, and it without fail. So that's my schedule.
And for women out there who maybe are having some trouble with their makeup, what is the makeup remover you use to get that off your face afterwards?
Makeup? What makeup? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I mean, yes, that's true. Silly. Oh no! I don't want to pull back the curtain on Cap. I don't want to make Captain Disillusion disillusioned.
That's fine. No, people understand that to cover up all of the silver, I have to use a lot of flesh tone makeup on the top part of my face, and I looked at different sources like Revlon mostly, but I think most ladies know a lot more about this than me, and I am not qualified to give advice.
Oh, really? Okay, do not take makeup advice from Captain Disillusion. Well, we've got to go in and do the Skeptic Zone, I think, soon, haven't we?
Pretty soon.
Yes, I'm getting a wind up there, so I hope we bump into each other at the dinner tonight. Are you doing any hosting work?
Yes, I'll be at the dinner. I am doing a talk tomorrow, and it should be fun.
What's the topic of your talk tomorrow?
The topic of my talk, as most of my activity and most of the things that I do, is about me. It'll just be about, my journey and, striking the right tone with what you produce online and communicating with the audience.
Right, I look forward to that, and I hope you put someone down in a hilarious and down-putting way.
I'll do my best.
What does Christmas mean to you? Does it mean the big guy in the red suit? Does it mean yet another crappy Christmas song like this one?
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas.
Or does it mean getting along to a very bunga Christmas? That's right, the happiest kingdom of them all will be at the mighty Harold Park Hotel at 7:30 on Tuesday the 19th of December, where Tim Ferguson of the Doug Anthony All-Stars, of everything that's funny ever in the history of Australian comedy, and myself will be on stage. We'll be having a quiz, we'll be mucking about, we'll be libeling people, and I can almost guarantee you that the show that is recorded on the night will only be half of what we actually do. Find out what's so good about the other half. Maybe it's not. Or maybe a skeptic, you should go along and find out. It's your job to skeptically analyse comedy, and to the point that it's not funny anymore. That's a very bunga Christmas, Tuesday the 19th of December at the Harold Park Hotel in Sydney. Get along there. Tickets available online. Just go along and look for a very bunga Christmas in the Google machine, or go to Mayanrd.com.au, and there on the front page you'll see a post about it, as well as all the other Christmas posts. I've been doing a podcast a day for you people, and you haven't even been listening. You're ungrateful. But you will be grateful if you go along to a very bunga Christmas and say inspiring things like Yuletide, or something like that. Ho, ho, ho. That's a very bunga Christmas. Maynard.com.au.
Grain of salt. Grain of salt. Grain of salt.
Let's all take this with a grain of salt. Here's Eran Segev.
Grain of salt now. Grain of salt, you gotta take it with a...
I'm here with Jakub Kroulik. Okay, thank you for saving me on this. Jakub, you gave a talk yesterday, or a presentation actually, or demonstration is probably the right word.
Yes.
Yesterday, as part of the session about exorcism. Before we start talking about that, I would like you to maybe give a bit of background about yourself, how you came to give that presentation or that demonstration.
Yeah. I'm a mentalist and hypnotist, and I cooperate with Czech Skeptics Club in Project Paranormal Challenge. This project is why I'm here, because My specialization is magic, tricks, and hypnosis.
Okay, so specifically what you demonstrated is how you can create, let's call it symptoms, or you can create the same effect as an exorcism or as a possession in skeptics, in fact. Not just anyone, but in fact in skeptics.
But skeptics are normal people.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I think it's important from the perspective of there's no prior belief or anything like that. You created it's not like we spoke to these people afterwards. It's not like they believed afterwards either. Basically, what you created was the effect. Okay, so can you just run us through it quickly, what you demonstrated?
I demonstrated a phenomenon labeled as possession. So my experience is that there is no possession. There's only imagination or suggestion which creates this phenomenon which looks like possession.
Psychological effects.
Yeah, logical effects.
Okay, so the psychological effect that we saw, one of them was, for example, fear of water. Can you describe what that looks like?
Yeah, fear of water was there because people who were here during the whole movie by Konrad Szulajski.
So maybe I'll just interrupt and say that before your demonstration we saw a movie in which exorcism was shown, and basically one of the things that we saw was a woman that was supposedly possessed that's afraid of holy water.
Yes, and this moment was a beautiful pre-show for my demonstration, this effect, because people who were there in the hall, they knew how they could react when they are in trance or they feel something strange in their body.
Yeah, so basically the suggestion was implanted for you in the audience.
Yes,
so
you're right.
Today somebody said, Diego said in his talk today, he mentioned your demonstration, and he said that he didn't know how people would know, how skeptics would know to be afraid of holy water. And I was thinking that there were two things that happened during the demonstration. First of all, people saw the movie before.
Yes.
And that was part of it.
Very important.
But also, you yourself, in the preparation, while these two subjects were already under hypnosis, you said, people who are possessed very often are afraid of holy water. Here I'm making this water into holy water. So you actually said it. You didn't say it directly to them, but you actually said it, and everybody could hear it.
But it was all set up. I worked with that movie because I needed they should see it before practically, and then I mention it again, and that it works.
Yeah. So can you describe? I mean, there was a bit of subtlety to it in terms of the way the woman that you gave holy water, in of course in quotes, to. Can you describe how she responded?
She responded that.
So first of all, you gave her just a glass of water.
Yes, it was normal glass of water. It was not holy water. Only
No, but first you gave her water and she just had a sip and everything was fine.
Yes, and then I mentioned that now it is holy water and you will feel something different.
Yes.
So taste it, and that was suggestion. She was expecting. Yeah, she was expecting something strange, something. Similar as in the movie.
And can you describe how she responded?
Yeah, she spitted that water, and she was shaking, and she was afraid of this subject.
She was clearly very distressed.
Yes.
That was something that was actually disturbing, because she was clearly distressed by the water. Yes. First of all, she was moving her chair back to be further away from the glass of water that was on the chair before
yes.
her.
It was a very nice demonstration.
Yeah. So, have you done something of this kind before? So specifically demonstrating the effects of possession?
I do performance in Czech Republic or lectures in libraries, and there I'm presenting this phenomenon, so-called suggestion or hypnosis, because I think there is no hypnosis. There's only suggestion, and authority and faith or expectation, and these things creating what you saw.
So what would you, I mean, in this case, again, it was possession that you demonstrated. What other kind of things would you demonstrate in your lectures?
You can forget your name. You could think that you are some other person. We can replace your name, or you can remember everything what is in your head, or it depends on your creativity what you can do, or you can heal somebody. You will not feel pain.
I want to tell you something that to me was actually fairly powerful, which you might not be aware of. It was quite clear that you were very scripted because you wanted the English to be, you prepared everything in English, and you were a little bit almost reading from the paper, which I think most people would expect would not work. With hypnosis and suggestion, that you expect that you need to respond, and here you were basically walking through a series of steps. You were clearly reading very often from the sheet of paper. A couple of times you were struggling with the pronunciation, and it was working. It was still working, which actually shows how it's a technique.
It's
just something you learn.
It is not something mysterious or paranormal. It's only a technique, and doctors can use it. It's normal scientific method. And you should have only a few practice to do that.
So, in your view, what does that prove that possession does not exist?
I think the proof that some possession doesn't exist, we can't say that something is not real. But I think I didn't meet somebody who reacted different than what we can create by this method.
So basically it's similar to what mentalists always say.
Yes.
That, we can't prove that psychics don't exist, but we can do very easily the same thing that they do, only very often better.
Yes.
Without resorting to anything supernatural.
That's right.
Yeah. So you do mentalism as well? So you're a magician and a mentalist as well, right?
Yes, I am a magician mentalist. And hypnosis is part of mentalism. Yes. You can do muscle reading, hypnosis, you can do some observation for your work, or micro-expression. So this is little pieces of whole area.
Okay. Well, thank you. The demonstration, especially in the context yesterday, was really fascinating.
Thank you.
And it's great. It was great to see you. It's great to meet you here. And thank you very much.
Great to meet you.
Grain of salt now. Grain of salt. You gotta take it with a...
Hello, this is Sharon Hill, creator of DoubtfulNews.com and the 15 Credibility Street podcast. I have a new book from McFarland Publishing called Scientifical Americans, The Culture of Amateur Paranormal Researchers. Scientifical means attempting to be scientific and do science, but falling short. This book is the first full examination of the rise of amateur research and investigation groups in America, and how they do or don't use science to investigate ghosts, UFOs, and cryptids like Bigfoot and lake monsters. I place these thousands of paranormal explorers into the historical context of their subject areas, chart the influence of paranormal-themed media and the internet, and examine what it means to do science and how amateurs can contribute. Paranormal believers, skeptics, and persons of all opinions in between will find Scientifical Americans to be a unique view of the modern relationship between science and society, as well as our engagement with paranormal themes in popular culture. Purchase the book through your favorite bookseller or an Amazon Kindle version. For more info, visit my website at SharonAHill.com.
Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone. I notice the Blue Mountain Skeptical Group are having another meeting tomorrow night, in fact, Monday the 11th, at the Wentworth Falls Hotel, the Grand View, and I'll see if I can pop along there. It was a lot of fun a couple of weeks ago, as reported on the Skeptic Zone. I had a beer spilt all over my lap, and you can't get much more fun than that. And I also noticed that my friend Brian Dunning is putting together a new documentary on the heels of Principles of Curiosity, which is a wonderful documentary. He's trying to get funding for something called Science Friction, and you can find out more at sciencefriction.tv. It's all about the way scientists and skeptics and people like that get misrepresented on TV documentaries and such like. If that sounds of interest to you, head over to sciencefriction.tv. Coming up on next week's show, we're going to be looking at UFOs and strange creatures with a documentary filmmaker. I think we'll have some more Skeptics in the Pub interviews and snippets. And, well, I don't know. I can't look into the future. I wish I could. I wish I could. That would be a good wish to have. Just peer into the future and see what's going to go on. Well, we'll all find out next week. But until then, this is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia. You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Please visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for show notes, contacts, and to access the back catalogue of episodes going back to 2008. You can follow the Skeptic Zone podcast on Twitter at Skeptic Zone, visit our Facebook page, or leave a review on iTunes. You can also support the Skeptic Zone via Patreon or PayPal. You can be part of the show by downloading the VoiceBite app at voicebite.com and using the hashtag SkepticZone. The Skeptic Zone podcast is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed on the Skeptic Zone are not necessarily those of Australian skeptics or any other skeptical organisation.
There's some thunder.